Good afternoon, everybody. It is still April 11th, and we are back from recess, and we are going to start this afternoon session with a proclamation recognizing Black Maternal Health Week, and that will be led by Councilmember Sayles.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to be here with you all today to recognize Black Maternal Health Week. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the many community organizations that we have represented here today. The African American Health Program, if you're here, come on up as we call you. The Department of Health and Human Services, the Fetal and Infant Mortality Review Board and Community Action Training, the Montgomery County Collaboration Council, the Babies Born Healthy Program, and the Advocacy Interest Group with the Howard University College of Medicine. Thank you all for being here today and for the work that you do. Today is the official day of International Maternal Health and Rights, a day to advocate for eliminating maternal mortality globally and to present a proclamation to our incredible community leaders and organizations working on an issue that should not exist in our county, let alone in our country. I also want to take a moment to recognize that we are all here today without mothers and children who deserve a fair chance at life had we invested in programs that address disparities in maternal and fetal mortality rates. According to the CDC, Black women are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women. Further, in Maryland, the maternal mortality rate among Blacks is almost 4 times that of whites. These statistics are not new to any of us. We have been complicit for far too long and must remember that these statistics are not just numbers, they are people. They are mothers who are no longer with their newborn children. They are children with a statistical disadvantage for simply being Black. When Black mothers discover the blessing of carrying a child, fear clouds an otherwise beautiful moment. Fear that their skin color will result in them becoming another statistic, amplifying what they already know. That our Black mothers and babies are dying at alarming and disproportionately higher rates than other races. I'm honored to present this proclamation in front of the council and a room full of fellow advocates who are equally outraged over these numbers, and legislators who share my commitment to making the necessary changes to combat this issue. Montgomery County can be a pioneer in creating a model that others in our country can replicate. We can be the ones to lead the change, and I am committed to working on just that with my colleagues and community partners. We can be an active part of the solution by normalizing trauma-informed care, prioritizing postpartum education and support during healthcare visits, countering implicit bias among medical professionals, extending Medicaid coverage up to 1 year postpartum in every state, and partnering with Black maternal health organizations. We have representatives from Black maternal health organizations here today who I would now like to invite to share brief remarks. We have with us Dr. Kisha Davis, Montgomery County Health Officer, Public Health Officer, Montgomery County Public Health Officer at the Department of Health and Human Services, Dr. Jermaine Williams, President of Montgomery College, Dr. Ann Kademian, Executive Director at the University of Maryland, Shady Grove, Lynette Byfield, a graduate of the Babies Born Healthy Program, Charlene Day, Nurse Case Manager for the African American Health Program, and Dr. Lauren Jenkins, former co-chair of the Fetal and Infant Mortality Review Board and Community Action Team. And finally, Brittany McClendon Weary, co-president of the Advocacy Interest Group at the Howard University College of Medicine. I hope everyone remembered their order. We're going to start with Dr. Davis.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Keisha Davis, County Health Officer. I'm also a family physician, a Black woman, and a mother of 3. And this issue cuts close for myself, for the patients that I care for. Councilmember Sales has already read the statistics. I am not going to reiterate those. The statistics are staggering. We, as a country, as a state, should be ashamed of the outcomes that we have seen in birth outcomes in our Black mothers, and we need to continue to pull attention to that. Some of the folks here represent the programs that we are doing here in Montgomery County to expressly combat those statistics. And I want to invite Lynette Byfield, who is a graduate of one of our programs, Babies Born Healthy, to share a little bit about her experience. Is there a way for me to bring this down?
Thank you. Hello, my name is Lynette, and a little over a year and a half ago, I was a client of the Babies Born Healthy program while I was pregnant with my youngest son, Kingston. And when I found out that I was pregnant, I was excited, but I was also scared. And the reason that I was scared was because my first pregnancy ended in an emergency C-section. My son was in the NICU for the first month of his life. I struggled with breastfeeding, and I had issues with just not being able to bring him home. And I felt like a failure as a mom. When I got pregnant again, the second time, I learned about the Babies Born Healthy program, and I decided that I wanted to do things different this time. And everybody at Babies Born Healthy was very helpful. They were very kind. I enjoyed participating in the Zoom classes and the in-person classes that they held twice a month. I was able to meet other participants, and we were able to share our experiences. I learned about nutrition. I learned about well-being, child safety, pregnancy and postpartum warning signs. And I think one of the most important things that I took away from that program was the sense of empowerment. Babies Born Healthy taught us to be empowered. It taught us to advocate for ourselves. It taught us to advocate for our babies. And I tended to be someone that really didn't, I sort of deferred to what doctors said. I didn't really ask a lot of questions. I didn't speak up if I disagreed or I didn't understand something. And this program taught me to be vocal about what I wanted for my pregnancy and what I wanted from my birth. And I was able to follow through on that. It taught me to ask questions and keep talking until doctors listened, and I did that. Now, my transition after my son Kingston was born was not easy. I went from being like an already exhausted, overwhelmed mom of 1 to now having 2 very young children completely dependent on me, and the pandemic didn't help. I was not working, and I was worried about providing for my family, and once again, I was starting to have feelings of failure. And the support of Babies Born Healthy, they let me know that I wasn't alone, that I was dealing with postpartum depression, and that if I needed help, I could reach out. And after time passed, things got better. And my son, Kingston, is now a happy, healthy 1-year-old. And honestly, in an amazing turn of events, I am now a community health worker for the Babies Born Healthy program. So I get to support and empower women the way that I was supported. So I'm very grateful to Babies Born Healthy. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Councilmember Sales, for this opportunity to stand next to you to amplify the importance of Black maternal health care. We understand how important this is at Montgomery College, and we are here and we look at access and representation and fortified educational experiences. And when we think about how we can address healthcare inequities, we are right now enhancing the number of seats that we have by adding a nursing lab to our Health Sciences Center, by adding nursing labs to East County Education Center, by having high school students being able to be enrolled in a dual enrollment program in the nursing program. And that next piece of representation, serving our students who 25% identify as Black and almost 80% identify as a person of color, we can help to ensure that we're preparing the workforce for healthcare workers who look like our community members, which then goes to that fortified educational opportunity, some of which you said, Councilmember Sales, ensuring that our curricula, as it does, looks at implicit bias, looks at what has happened throughout the course of our history that has caused these healthcare inequities, so that we can prepare our students for this both inside the classroom and during their several hours of clinical time. And that is all, supported by our excellent faculty and staff. So again, we stand firm with you in addressing healthcare inequities, especially Black maternal healthcare inequities. It is so important. At Montgomery College, we want our students to change lives. We also want them to change the lives of those in their communities. Thank you again, Councilmember Sales. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Sales. It is an honor to join you today and everyone here today to focus on Black maternal health. The alarming rise of Black maternal deaths in the United States is devastating and unacceptable, and it's a problem we must solve. And it's one we can solve, and it's one we can solve together. At the universities at Shady Grove, just like my colleagues at Montgomery College and other educational institutions, we are committed to the educational solutions to this problem. USG is committed to developing and supporting healthcare professionals, serving county and the region in their educational journeys so they have the technical knowledge and skills, but also the cultural humility to properly serve and care for Black mothers and children. USG is committed to developing and supporting the entrepreneurial mindset in our students for all learners and entrepreneurs who will create organizations and new systems that support Black maternal health, find solutions to systemic bias, and the provision of health care. And USG is committed to providing increasingly accessible and affordable educational options for all residents as essential for sustainable wage careers and a quality of life that is essential to good health as well. Thank you so much. We stand with you today.
Thank you all for the invitation. My name is Charlene Day. I am a case manager with the African American Health Program, the SMILE program, Starting More Infants Living Equally. Our goal is once the client is enrolled, we follow them for their entire pregnancy and until the baby is 1 year old. During that time, we address all their needs, their health issues, diabetes, hypertension, preterm labor, gestational diabetes. We make sure that they understand what is going on with their bodies, and we encourage them to advocate for themselves. By the time they leave the program, they are well prepared, they're knowledgeable, they know what to expect on labor and delivery, they're able to ask for pain management and know exactly which pain managements have the best effect on them. So we educate, we prepare for delivery, we have better outcomes. Our clients are able to verbalize what they have learned and how their lives have been improved with our program. Again, I am with the African American Health Program, the SMILE program. Thank you very much.
Dr. Jenkins? Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Montgomery County. Thank you very much for Councilmember Sales for highlighting this important issue of maternal health. Our Improved Pregnancy Outcome Teams, the Fetal Infant Mortality Review Board, reviews Montgomery County fetal and infant deaths. We have an increased rate of death in African American infants and children of twofold. And this is independent of insurance status and greater than high school education. We also see that African American women have increased risk of problems during pregnancy, labor and delivery, and after pregnancy. Unfortunately, tragically, the CDC reports that nationally, African American women have a 3 to 4-fold risk of dying within the first year after delivery. In conclusion, thank you again for this proclamation highlighting these disparities. It is our hope that with collaboration of institutions, clinical providers, and communities, we will truly be able to be happy about maternal health. Thank you very much.
And last but not least, Brittany McClendon Weary.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brittany McClendon Weary. I'm a third-year medical student at Howard University College of Medicine. I aspire to be an OBGYN and currently, I serve as the co-president of the Advocacy Interest Group at Howard University College of Medicine. So we're an organization dedicated to advocating for our patients inside and outside of the hospital. So it'll be completely remiss of our organization not to highlight and emphasize the importance of Black Maternal Health Week. As many people have already said, Black women have almost a 3 times more likely to die during childbirth than white women. And this isn't a race issue. I want to be clear on that. This is a racism issue. And it's going to take more than legislation like the Momnibus bill, which is amazing to get there. It's going to take all of us. It's going to take a community effort to really make a change and make Black women have more time with their little ones. So thank you again for this opportunity, Councilmember Sayles, and happy Black Maternal Health Week, y'all.
And so I want to thank everyone for coming in today and want to grab a quick photo with all of our organizations and advocates who are represented here today. Let's get in a little closer.
Okay, thank you very much, Councilmember Sayles, and for everybody for celebrating Black Maternal Health Week as we work to keep everybody in our community healthy and safe. And so we are now going to move on to a series of public hearings. I know you are all here for the budget public hearing, but we have a few more we're going to get to before that one. So first up is item number 12, a public hearing, Executive Regulation 123, updated position description for Assistant Chief of Police, Civilian. The Public Safety Committee work session is scheduled for June 12th. Those wishing to submit additional materials for the Council's consideration must do so by the close of business on June 5th. We do not have any speakers for this public hearing, and this public hearing is now closed. Next up is item number 13. This is a public hearing on Bill 1723, Taxation, recordation tax rates amendments. This bill would increase the rate of the recordation tax levied under state law for certain transactions, allocate the revenue received from the recordation tax for certain uses, and generally amend the law governing the recordation tax. A Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee work session is scheduled for April 24th. Those wishing to submit additional materials for the Council's consideration must do so by the close of business on April 17th. And we have 6 speakers signed up for this public hearing, all of whom are in person, so I would invite everybody to come on down at the same time. First is Gordy Brenn, then Avi Adler, Jamie Ninen, Laura Stewart, Paul Geller, and Justin McKierney. Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Brennan, you know how we do this, but you're also speaking on another item, so you'll get 5 minutes for those two. Check your mic one more time. There you go.
Hi, Gordy Brennan with the Taxpayers League. We'll be speaking to both the recordation tax increase and the operating budget. This is a historic moment for the Taxpayers League because we support raising the recordation tax, but with restrictions. We ask that the recordation tax increase be done in lieu of a property tax increase and used solely to bolster the MCPS operating budget, specifically to narrow the achievement gap and improve oversight with a dedicated MCPS OIG reporting to the school board. We ask that you put aside ideology and political obligations to put our kids ahead of adults by incentivizing MCPS to target pay raises at low-income schools where teachers and effective principals know best how to manage school performance. You still have to cut spending to balance the budget without harmful property tax increases. Also, recordation taxes are damaging to economic growth but will hurt fewer residents than a property tax increase, and you can mitigate the negative impact on affordable housing by minimizing proposed rent controls. Relying on a recordation tax, not a property tax increase, best meets racial justice and social equity objectives and avoids more property tax inequities. Increasing MCPS funding should be accompanied by better management to assure every kid who isn't proficient in reading or math gets intervention help next year. Every kid. We support the Black and Brown Coalition's recommendation for more effective principals and teachers in low-income schools to get this done. Proposed allocations for the MCPS capital budget or housing initiative fund are not as important as lowering the achievement gap for racial equity and social objectives, or as cost effective. Debt service displaces operating budget priorities for families and students, while HIF subsidies in the form of rental assistance will not offset the cost of a future generation of poorly educated students. MCPS strategies are ineffective and need better counsel incentives. Tutoring and ad hoc teacher interventions reach only a small percentage of kids who aren't proficient in math and reading. Management has not yet answered the board's question last fall about what happens to chronically failing schools. But the council's made a habit of boosting the MCPS operating budget above the maintenance of effort level without specifying performance targets to lower the achievement gap and without regard to high non-instruction spending. Increases above MOE spending should be tied to corresponding annual gap reduction performance improvement targets, and that will improve performance and cost controls. I'm going to turn to the budget now for operations. Residents are increasingly concerned about the cost and effectiveness of our county government. The budget request costs nearly 8% more than last year, but doesn't improve outcomes for our residents. And a mild recession forecast underestimates likely revenue losses. The proposed 10% property tax increase evades charter limits with an arbitrary education fig leaf to disguise outrageous 13% county pay raises on top of step increases. Money's fungible, folks. The tax increase takes another huge bite out of our incomes on top of last year's huge appraisal increase. This increase will be passed on to renters, too. Some residents will lose their jobs during the recession, while others will be forced from their homes by the tax increase. All will be tightening their belts, and you should cut costs. Why aren't proposed pay raises based on a comparative review of workers' salaries and wages that was last done in 2011? Why aren't you cutting the 2,000 new positions added to the various agencies over the last 4 years and largely funded with one-time federal money? Examples of how residents suffer from weaker county performance include MCPS. The achievement gap is now a chasm, but proposed across-the-board pay raises not targeted at low-income schools where the gap is greatest, and don't implement blueprint leadership improvements at the school level where more interventions are needed. MCPS steals money from low-income kids by voraciously spending 45 cents of every dollar you give them on non-instruction activities, including a bloated bureaucracy, and this compares to an overhead rate of just 37% in Fairfax. Further, a dedicated OIG would reduce fraud risks. Public safety, crime's increasing, but patrol positions remain vacant, and the 911 response time has increased by almost a minute. Tie the budget to crime reduction targets and adopt the 911 model in Fairfax. WSSC, the record 7% rate increase perpetuates rates that are double Fairfax County, but no cost cuts are proposed, and large families pay higher rates and are forced to cut consumption to afford this luxury. Moderator Fitch still maintains a negative outlook on WSSC, and the balance sheet remains perilously close to insolvency, making just a rate increase irresponsible, especially with the unresolved governance debacle. We have more detail in our written testimony and solutions, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Brenny. Next is Mr. Adler, who's speaking to item number 15 as well, so you get 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Avi Adler, and I come before you today on behalf of the Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors and our 12,000 members to express our concerns regarding the county executive's proposed FY24 budget, including the 10% tax increase as well as the recordation tax increases proposed by council members Mink and Jawando. The FY24 budget document makes multiple references to the possibility of a looming recession, our slowed economic growth, and the still felt pain of the pandemic. And in such an instance, you would expect that belt tightening and future financial liabilities keep at a necessary minimum. But with a growing level of tax-supported expenditures, only reachable through the large property tax increase that has been proposed, the executive's proposed budget seems inconsistent with the current economic landscape. The county executive will say that the budget this year is all about the schools, but frankly, we feel that is a false narrative. I want to take a moment to reiterate that GCAR is a staunch supporter of public education. The majority of our members are residents of Montgomery County, have children in our school system, are members of PTAs and other groups. The $300 million increase to maintenance of effort for a school system that isn't using the funds already appropriated is not fiscally responsible. The MCPS fund balances at the end of the fiscal year have grown from $2 million in 1997 to $88 million in 2022. This exponential growth in these surpluses seems to correlate with leftover funds dedicated to instructional salaries. 8.3% of the instructional salary budget was left over in 2022. It seems inconsistent that the school system would need hundreds of millions more appropriated while ending each year with tens of millions in unused funds. Montgomery County sits at a negative 1% job growth and negative total employment year after year. Despite this anemic growth, the tax-supported budget would grow across the board by nearly $170 million versus FY23's approved budget, which is an increase of 8.9%. During his budget press conference, the county executive continued to push the claim that Fairfax County taxes are lower than ours. But based on a review of the financial statements for both Montgomery County and Fairfax County, our tax burdens per capita were nearly 14% higher for both FY22 and FY21. A government budget is a public show of its priorities. But the proposed budget gives out additional funding across the board and asks residents to foot the bill through tax increases. Put simply, if everything is a priority, then nothing is a priority. We also need to express our strong objections to Bill 1723, recordation tax rates. In the bill's introduction packet, a chart from the Maryland Department of Legislative Services is cited showing our recordation tax rates in the mid-range of all Maryland counties. What the packet leaves out is that only Frederick County, receives a higher per capita revenue from recordation tax, adding a more accurate context to this discussion. Raising recordation taxes will heavily impact housing affordability in an already constrained market. These costs are not included in a mortgage. They are due at closing. Adding burdens to closing will push young families looking to put down their roots here into neighboring jurisdictions. I sat at this very table before the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee just a few short weeks ago to take part in a conversation surrounding housing affordability. Yet this proposal would have negative effects on that very issue. We hope that instead of raising the cost of closing on a home, the council will instead look at ways to break down the barriers to home ownership in our county. The proposed FY24 operating budget and Bill 1723 will likely serve as bellwethers for the direction of this council wants to take the county in coming years. Residents should not be asked to shoulder the responsibility of massive budget increases. We know the budget process is difficult, and we genuinely appreciate your work and your staff's put in over these many weeks. Please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or association if we can be of help in any way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adler. There's a lot more testimony to come, so hold your sentiments, please. Is Jamie Ninen here? Okay. We'll move on to Laura Stewart. Ms. Stewart, you have 3 minutes. You're on.
Good afternoon, President Glass and council members. My name is Laura Stewart, and I'm here to represent MCC-PTA as the CIP committee chair. Our delegates assembly voted without opposition to send a letter of support for County Bill 1723 to the County Council, which you should have received today. We acknowledge that any tax increase should be weighed carefully, but we believe that this progressive recordation tax is needed now for our schools. The MCPS capital budget has been underfunded for years, caused by several factors, including the reduction in bonding, reduction in impact tax rates, inflationary pressure, and growth in our school population over the last decade. Looking at the future, the state money from Built to Learn, some of which was supplanted, will run out soon. We will be advocating to replace those funds, but there are no plans on the books today. MCPS has already reduced the scope of several projects, and after 8 project delays last year, they listed more in current non-recommended budget, which could cost our county millions of dollars due to inflation and increased maintenance needs. This bill has an appropriate rationale, which was proposed by the Planning Board in 2020. This tax targets a major factor in student population growth, turnover of older neighborhoods. It is also progressive, so it will not target our families with lower socioeconomic status. Unfortunately, the last council passed on raising recordation tax rates 3 years ago, which would have brought in much needed dollars during the housing boom. In fact, data from the Maryland Association of Realtors show that the last increase did not have an obvious impact on home sales after the new rates came into effect. Buyers at the median price would pay an additional $1,200 in closing costs, which is significant, but not the main focus of home buyers when looking at other impactful factors like interest rates. We understand that this is the start of a discussion on funding the MCPS CIP. It is difficult to catch up after years of maintenance and construction delays. We will also advocate for using our resources as responsibly and effectively as possible. MC Bill 1723 will help stop the bleeding in this budget cycle and will also leave us better prepared in future cycles. We can no longer afford to use the tool we've been using to solve this budget crisis, which is delaying projects and leaving kids in inadequate facilities year after year. You have heard of the stories of broken bathrooms, ceiling tiles, and lunches starting right after breakfast, and crowded cafeterias. Our kids cannot wait any longer. Do we want to remain an attractive place for young professionals to move here? Do we actually want to attract jobs that depends on educating of children? Please, we can't wait any longer. Therefore, we urge you to pass MC 1723. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Next is Mr. Geller. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, President Glass, Vice President Friedson, sponsor, Councilmember Mink, and co-sponsor, Councilmember Jawando. Thank you very much for this legislation. I support the bill's goal here. Councilmember Mink, if I may, I usually don't address council members directly, but this is exceptional. It's very nice of you to take as much concern for MCPS as you have, and all of you have over the years. I've seen many of you at school buildings. This is really putting your neck out on the line, both of you, and it's greatly appreciated that you did so. My concern is 7 years ago, I sat at this very desk and I delivered testimony to change the recordation tax. At the time, it was going to cost about a 27-cent increase per day on the average mortgage in this county, which at that point was about $485,000. And the average length of the mortgage was about 7 years before people moved. A lot of people were upset about it then because it was so much that we were asking at the time, but it was very necessary. This goes a little bit further than that, and what I would like to do is suggest a three-pronged approach moving forward to raise some additional revenues. First of all, I want to consider returning to the universal 120% school impact tax that was changed back in 2020. Now, a group of MCC PTA folks, when I was affiliated with them, got together called the Next Steps Reps for over a year and a half, from 2015 to 2016, to come up with ways to generate more revenue for school construction projects. The greatest impact was on that school impact tax. It used to be when developers wanted to have new projects, they would pay only 90% of the cost of every new school seat generated. So we were constantly getting into a deficit. We requested 120% and it was done at the time. In 2020, it reverted back to 100%, but it's kind of wonky for a lot of reasons. It should be back at 120% universally. The second thing is we really need to ask the state, especially now that we have a new administration, for a greater percentage of funding of our school construction projects overall here in Montgomery County. They've been very generous to other counties, but even in your packet, it states that Montgomery County receives the least amount of fiscal aid of any other jurisdiction in Maryland. And the third thing that I would like you to consider is, if you're going to tinker with the recordation tax, make it a more moderate one. As I'm sure many of us would agree, our school system has a lot of challenges. The amount that's mentioned in here is very bold, and it's even a little too bold for me. But maybe if we could dial it back a little bit and find a medium that would be best suited for the school system and for everyone else, that would be best. But I thank you very much for this legislation and for all that you're doing for MCPS.
Thank you, Mr. Geller. Last on this panel, Mr. McInerney.
Good afternoon, council members. President Glass, thank you for having me. I'm Justin McInerney, testifying on behalf of the Greater Bethesda Chamber of Commerce in opposition to the bill. I'm an attorney by trade, and I also operate a business here in Montgomery County in addition to running my law practice. I've lived in Montgomery County for over 50 years. The Chamber opposes this bill for several reasons. First of all, we are in the midst of an affordable housing crisis, and this bill will only hurt those who are trying to enter the market for the first time. First-time home buyers in Montgomery County are generally looking at a $500,000 loan in the home price alone. People in this position typically max out their financial resources and they are stretched to their financial limits. And as my colleague to the right of me mentioned, the loan is only part of the cost. We've got closing costs, we've got attorney's fees, we've got transfer taxes, and of course recordation taxes, all of which are due at closing, which come out of the home buyer's pockets. Now, Councilmember Katz this morning made an excellent observation when he said that taxes are paid by people. Okay, well, let's look at what the, let's keeping in mind that taxes come from people. Currently, a $500,000 mortgage is $4,450 in recordation taxes. The proposed bill will add another $1,420 to the cost of the home purchase, which is due at closing. So this additional money needs to come from someone. It comes from the home buyers. This is a 32% increase for people who are trying to obtain affordable housing in an incredibly challenging market. one of the stated objectives of the bill is to cover rent assistance for low and moderate income households. In other words, the council is trying to increase housing costs to decrease housing costs. I don't think it works that way. So the chamber is also concerned about what effect this will have on the MOE escalator requirements. Once the MOE goes up, it can't come down. And if the revenue goes down, that's too bad. The MOE is going up, and the revenue is necessarily going to fluctuate. And lastly, the chamber will say that this is anti-business, and I think it will have a tendency to drive individual and businesses to other neighboring jurisdictions with lower costs of doing business. Thank you for hearing from me. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your testimony. I appreciate you all joining us this afternoon. And with that, this public hearing is now closed. Before we go on to the next public hearing, I do want to share that there is an overflow room for anyone who needs to sit. There's an overflow room on the 4th floor, but I also do see a number of seats in the first few rows if anybody is in need of a seat. The next public hearing is a public hearing and action regarding a supplemental appropriation to the county government's FY23 operating budget for the Department of Health and Human Services and the Childhood Lead Poisoning Prevention and Environment Case Management Grant in the amount of $550,000. Action is scheduled immediately following this hearing. We have one speaker, and joining us virtually will be Vanessa Lamers.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Vanessa Lammers, and I am an epidemiologist and a public health practitioner living in Montgomery County. I'm so sorry I'm not able to join you in person today. You may recognize my name from previous COVID testimonies, but unlike many public health practitioners, I had an entire portfolio of work prior to the current pandemic, and that's what brings me here today. In the early days as the pandemic unfolded in February 2020, I was actually testifying before another council body, the Milwaukee Common Council. My team conducted a comprehensive review of the childhood lead poisoning program after national news broke that the program was not properly following up with children who were lead poisoned. I spent nearly 2 years examining the lead poisoning program and the landscape of lead poisoning nationally, including in Maryland. I can give you my 17 recommendations highlighted in our 300-page report, but that may or may not be relevant to Montgomery County. But I want to tell you 3 things today. 1, lead poisoning is bad and it's dangerous. It causes neurological and developmental delays in kids. It causes nutritional problems, educational problems, and behavioral problems. In a study of violent offenders in 2020, individuals who were in jail for violent offenses such as murder, 50% were lead poisoned as a child. 2, lead poisoning in the current point in time is deeply racist. We have remediated lead paint in predominantly white communities across the country. We have not done a good job of remediating lead paint in communities of color. In a recent study, again 2020, by the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, looking at lead poisoning in 215 census tracts, 97% of the census tracts with a high number of elevated blood lead levels were categorized as majority non-white, 97%. Number 3, lead poisoning is a solvable and winnable battle. In public health, we have a lot of battles that are complex and nuanced and hard to solve. Like COVID, lead poisoning is not one of these problems. MoCo needs a stronger, faster, and harder response to lead poisoning. We need to be removing lead paint from homes and rental units and responding to lead poisoning cases at 5 micrograms per deciliter or less. The current policy of responding at 10 is insufficient. Thank you for your time today and for funding lead poisoning for children in Montgomery County. I'm happy to provide any follow-up information, data, research, or briefings to the committee that may be helpful in our joint quest for safe housing.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lammers, for your testimony. This public hearing is now closed, and colleagues, there is an action item. All those in favor of this special supplemental, raise your hand, and that is unanimous. Thank you. Next is item 15. This is a public hearing that you are all here for. This is a public hearing on the FY24 capital budget, amendments to the FY23 to 28 capital improvements program, and the FY24 operating budget. The council and its committees will conduct work sessions throughout the entire budget season, beginning April 14th, this Friday. And full council will begin our work sessions on May 8th. And we'll take all the time in between to engage in the hard work of going through the county executive's proposed $6.8 billion budget. And our entire work session and schedule will be on the website, so you can follow all the work of each committee as we work through this budget process. So I appreciate you, and I know my colleagues all appreciate you being here. This afternoon we have 32 speakers, and I'd like to call up the first five: Monique Keene-King, Susan Grafe, Brian Levine, Carol Guzman, and David Arozzo. We'll start with Ms. Keene-King. Ms. Keene-King? No, not here. Okay, Ms. Grafe. And turn your, yep, there we go.
Susan Grafe of Imagination Library of Montgomery County, Maryland, an affiliate of Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. I believe you're all familiar with our free book program, I see those nodding heads, for children 0 to 5, now in 12 zip codes. We have had many very positive results in the last year. In partnership with the Children's Opportunity Fund, we've added 6 zip codes and doubled our enrollment. Today, 3,100 children are enrolled, about 4% of eligible children. Another 1,500 have graduated, and 1,000 more have received books at one time or another. That's 5,000 kids who enter kindergarten a bit better prepared for school. And we have distributed over 65,000 books since 2015 and during the pandemic. And 10% of all 0 to 5-year-olds across the United States now receive Imagination Library books. At the state level, 2 game-changing laws have passed in 22 and 23, shepherded by Delegate Mark Corman. The Young Readers Program Expansion Act will provide some grants to entities like ours. However, there has been some very discouraging news. The county executive and the county public libraries have chosen not to bring this program under the auspices of the library system, as is done in PG County and DC. And not to expand to a county-wide affiliate, which is done in 11 Maryland counties. A dear friend, my husband and I have run this affiliate as a volunteer organization since its inception, and we are not getting any younger. The goal has always been to transfer this program to professional management that would take it county-wide. We are asking for $175,000 of the $280K we believe necessary for books and staff in FY24. The affiliate will raise funds through grants, donations, and applying for state funds. But the county government must now step up and do its share. Without this support, we will very likely close as of July 1. No more zip codes, no more enrollments. If you truly believe in this program, then you need to support it in a very significant way. It would be a tragedy for there to be no affiliate here to take advantage of state grants. So we put the ball in your court and vehemently urge you to think outside the box and find a way to continue and to grow Imagination Library. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Levine.
Good afternoon, Council President Glass, Vice Vice President Friedson, and members of the Montgomery County Council. I am Brian Levine with the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber typically provides testimony every year to the Council on budget priorities for our members and the business community at large. This year, however, is difficult to do given the proposed 10% property tax increase proposed in the county executive's fiscal year 2024 operating budget. While the Chamber is supportive of funding budget priorities in Montgomery County that enhance our quality of life and grow our ability for local businesses to be competitive, a property tax increase, especially one of this magnitude and size, is untenable, and we humbly ask that it be firmly rejected by the County Council. This massive tax increase proposal is asking local businesses and homeowners to shoulder ever higher costs through the imposition with some surrounding jurisdictions where taxes are lower and costs for doing businesses are less burdensome. Montgomery County simply cannot afford a huge tax increase, and if it wants to stay competitive for businesses and jobs and the tax base that they provide, you must reject this property tax increase. It also simply makes little sense for a myriad of reasons related to our persistent housing and affordability challenges to increase the property tax even by a little. Just to quickly summarize our concerns at the Chamber, we think that this tax increase proposal would have several harmful outcomes, and they include the following: increasing tax liability by a lot for locally located businesses, increasing the cost of doing business and living here in Montgomery County, hampering talent recruitment and retention, and this is an issue that the Chamber members have identified as their top concern, harming our regional competitiveness, and perhaps most confusing to us is driving down housing affordability, including increasing rents and at the same time slowing growth of our housing inventory. For these reasons, the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce requests that the County Council reject the County Executive's proposal to increase property tax in Montgomery County. Thank you for allowing me to testify.
Thank you. Ms. Guzman.
Buenas tardes, señores del Consejo. I don't speak English very well. I will do it in Spanish. Mi nombre es Carol Guzmán, soy residente en Germantown y soy presidenta de un grupo de 84 mujeres emprendedoras, de las cuales el 90% son residentes en Maryland y el condado. Por limitaciones del idioma, documentos legales, falta de apoyo de transporte, de apoyo para el cuidado de los niños, nos vemos obligadas a emprender, quizás no tanto por pasión, sino más bien por la necesidad económica. Pero todas coincidimos en algo: padecemos de ansiedad, de estrés, de cansancio, producto de la doble jornada, las tareas del hogar, el cuidado de los niños, etc. La falta de asesoría financiera, de negocios, etc.
Good afternoon, my name is Carol Guzman. I live in Germantown and I am the president of an organization with 84 women who are entrepreneurs. 90% of the members of the organization live in Maryland. We all have something in common. We have decided to take an entrepreneurship route because of the language barriers, legal status, lack of money for transportation, and lack of support with childcare. Being entrepreneurs is not a passion, it's a necessity. We all have something in common. We all suffer from anxiety, stress, and tiredness because we have to work double shifts, take care of our families, and we do not have financial stability or the knowledge.
El problema emergente aquí es donde una mujer latina que no habla inglés, que no tenemos documentación legal, sin habilidades de internet, podemos conseguir apoyo o asesoría para cuidar nuestra salud mental.
The emerging problem, for example, is a Latina woman who does not speak the language, does not have the legal documentation, cannot use the internet. So can this person receive support for her mental health?
Entendemos que el condado tiene servicios o cuenta con servicios para el cuidado de la salud mental para sus residentes. Sin embargo, no conocemos de ellos. Estos servicios incluyen, por ejemplo, áreas específicas para cuidar de la mujer. ¿Qué tan accesibles son estos programas para nosotros? ¿Cuentan con servicios de traducción? ¿Qué tan difícil es el proceso para aplicar una terapia? ¿Necesitamos seguro médico?
We understand that Montgomery County offers mental health services for residents, but we do not know anything about those services. Do the programs include services for women specifically? Are these programs really accessible to all of us? Do these programs offer interpretation services? How easy is it to apply to receive those services? Do we need medical insurance?
De las mujeres con las que trabajo, ninguna hemos asistido a alguna terapia de apoyo, clases de educación mental, talleres relacionados. Primero, porque no sabemos de la existencia de ellos o de estos programas o organizaciones. Segundo, porque no sabemos a dónde acudir o a quién preguntar. Y lo que más nos afecta o nos detiene a buscar información es el temor a que se nos cuestione muchas veces el estatus migratorio y no poder acceder a un seguro médico de salud que nos permita poder recibir el apoyo para cuidar nuestra salud mental.
None of these women that I work with have received therapy services, educational classes, or workshops about mental health. First, they do not know if there are those types of programs in the county and who offers these programs. Second, they do not know who to ask about these programs. And what women are more concerned about is to be questioned about their legal status and if they have medical insurance.
Nuestras mujeres latinas que no tenemos un estatus migratorio regular, que no hablamos bien inglés, que no tenemos seguro de salud, pero aportamos a la economía, también necesitamos de su apoyo y su consideración. Necesitamos que estos programas sean más visibles, que sean por favor en español también, que los terapistas o el personal de apoyo o el staff hablen español, que sean promocionados en nuestras escuelas, en nuestras iglesias, en las organizaciones, en redes sociales. Necesitamos tener acceso a ellos. Gracias.
Our Latino women also need our support, your support, regardless of their legal status, if they speak English or not, or if they have medical insurance. We need to make sure these programs are known in that community by promoting them in our schools, churches, social media, and local organizations. They also need to offer services in Spanish, including employees and therapists that speak Spanish. We really need to have access to those programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And Mr. Arezzo.
Good afternoon. My name is Dave Arozzo. I taught elementary school in MCPS for 22 years. I retired at the end of the last school year. My wife and I have lived in this community for 30 years. We own a home here. We've raised our children here. And they got a good education, good enough that they're on their own. As an educator, I always wanted my students to have the same opportunities that my children had, my own children. If you speak to teachers, you'll hear them say often things about their kids. They don't mean their biological offspring. They mean the students that are in their care. In the last couple of years, a lot of those conversations have taken a very serious turn. Teachers passing in the hall or huddled around the copier talk about one of their kids losing a caregiver to COVID or another whose caregiver is out of work. They wonder what they can do to help their kid whose family fears losing their house, or how they can help the kid whose family has already been evicted and has suffered the trauma and humiliation of seeing their belongings scattered on the sidewalk and scrambling to figure out where they're going to sleep that night. Maybe it'll be couch surfing, or maybe it'll be in a car. Perhaps the family's moved again, which means that the child will be starting a new school again. Maybe their kid is just hungry because when she sits down in the classroom, because the money and the food ran out at the end of last month. Again, I know you're out in the community and you hear these stories. You know the ramifications of COVID are widespread, deep, and ongoing. This cohort of children has gone through an unprecedented disruption in their lives. They need the support of educators, counselors, psychologists to navigate these stormy seas. They need the joy of learning and not just the fundamental academics. They need the joy of learning how to play an instrument or play a game or learn a sport or draw or paint or create or sing or act. I have no doubt that we all want what's best for our students and our children. I appreciate that you face tough budget issues. But it seems to me, when all's said and done, we face a very simple choice. Are we going to fund the system adequately to meet the extraordinary and immediate needs of these children, or are we not? Will we provide the funding so that a child who needs to see a counselor has a decent chance of seeing one in a reasonable amount of time? Will we have sufficient staff in the classes so the sizes are small enough so that all of the students in the room get the attention they need? Will we or will we not address the unprecedented impact of a pandemic, the likes of which the world has not seen in more than 100 years, or will we choose, and it is a choice, to simply do what we can with what we have and hope for the best? I'm not an expert on many things, but here's what I know with confidence and with the experience that comes with having worked with families, children for 22 years.
The ramifications of not providing these children with what they need now will be felt for years to come, and I strongly urge you to consider that in your deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rozo. Thank you all for your testimony this afternoon. Next, if David McGill, Kathleen Miem, Dominique Parker, Kimberly Fogg, Lee Benswanger, and Catherine Stalker could all come on down. Okay, Mr. McGill? You were on. No, hit it one more time. Nope. There you go.
Okay. Dear council members, thank you. It's good to see so many of you again. And really, thanks for holding these public meetings to get input on various county matters and budgets. I'm speaking today on behalf of MORE. As the Maryland Advocacy Director, we have over 500 members in Montgomery County who are residents, and we reach thousands more residents through our website and social media. MORE's focus is on the parks budget. We support a strong parks budget, operating budget, and ask the council increase the budget beyond what's been proposed by the county executive. The county executive's proposed budget for parks had a smaller increase than the pay increase he recently negotiated for county unions. We don't have a problem with the pay increase, but if the budget is not increased also, then jobs and programs will have to be cut. This is not, I think, what anyone expected when the pay increases were agreed to. Please increase the parks budget to a level that will allow at least the same level of activities, programs, and maintenance as last year. Moore's interest in the parks budget is primarily focused on trails and on programs to get people out on trails. The county's made a meaningful investment to build out the excellent and extensive trail system, one that attracts riders and tourists from throughout the region. Some of our members have even moved to Montgomery County to be from other counties and states to be near these fine trails. Keeping these trails in good shape and even improving them can be done through the operating budget. Getting more county residents out on trails through events, loaner bicycles, and other programs improves our overall quality of life. Please fully fund the trail programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Miem? If you want to hit, there. Hit it one more. They did it for you. There you go. You're good. You're good right now.
Good now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Mim, I live in Dickerson, Maryland. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I am a lifelong resident of Montgomery County, having been born and raised here and raised a family of my own, and I've worked in the Bethesda-Rockville area for over 30 years. Of the many things that have changed in the county over the years, the exceptional expanse and quality of the park system is to be commended. Their parks are now available in many communities, and they offer a needed respite from the grind of daily life in our diverse community. The parks are a highly rated asset of the county, and they continue to make the county a desirable place to live and own a business, which in turn contributes to a healthy tax base. I am concerned that the parks budget is being cut such that a reduction of staffing will be needed to continue the important work of the Parks Department. In the scheme of things, the parks budget is tiny, but the rewards to the county residents are immeasurable yet critical to the physical and mental well-being of the community. For myself, I volunteer a significant amount of time to teach basic introductory mountain biking to encourage families excuse me, and women, both young and old, to enjoy the excellent trail system that is in their backyard. So I encourage the council to fully fund the park budget request so that these dedicated staff can continue their impressive work excuse me, and continue to make Montgomery County a highly desirable place to live and work by providing well-maintained outdoor spaces for all in the community to enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Parker.
Good afternoon. My name is Dominique Parker. I'm both a property owner, having purchased my home in Silver Spring, and a 20-year teacher, teaching English at Wooten High School for the past 15 years in Councilmember Sidney Katz's district. Previously, I also spent 6 years at Eastern Middle School, right in Councilmember Kate Stewart's district. And that way, you two impacted my livelihood and what neighborhood I raised my child in. When I first moved to the area, there was never any question that Montgomery County would be my family's destination, and that decision was fueled by the excellence of the schools. Of the contiguous jurisdictions, Montgomery County had far and away the best reputation, and I knew this would be the best school system for my son. If I had to make that decision today, I'm not sure I would choose the same path. Today, I work in a school system in crisis. People don't want you to use that word. How will we attract new teachers if you and your union are constantly saying what is wrong here? But we cannot fix what is broken by pretending it is entirely whole. MCPS is short-staffed. Every day, more and more full-time educators are leaving, which means students are being taught by the few substitutes that can be found. There are just not enough teachers, and the system is bleeding talented people daily. Every day I get to school at 6:30. It's not that I'm inefficient, nor that I'm a morning person. The truth is, there is more to do than can be accomplished during my duty day. Once the once the main office is up and running, I check the daily class coverage spreadsheet. Since there are never enough substitutes to cover the classes needed, full-time teachers sign up to cover colleagues' classes during our planning periods. Inevitably, these periods are eaten up by coverage, for which we are paid an embarrassing $15 an hour. For every spare moment, there are students to meet, reteaching, testing, and grading. I used to say I loved my job and there was nothing else I could imagine myself doing. Now, I'm tired. Stretched too thin, overworked, underpaid, and unappreciated. I didn't become a teacher for the applause or to get rich. But I would like my salary to reflect my education and experience and to come closer to what I could be earning in the private sector. It would be a bonus to be treated like a professional who could be trusted to make decisions. As a property owner, I will gladly pay an extra dime to ensure teachers have more time and resources. If we are united for our kids and communities and our future, then the decision is fairly easy. Members of the County Council, we call on you to pass a revenue enhancement measure that ensures that the MCPS budget is funded as requested. This is the only way to begin to repair the damage done to our public schools over years of disinvestment. Our teachers, students, and families deserve to live in the same county I moved to. Invest in Montgomery County's children, community, and future now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Parker. Ms. Fogg? Ms. Fogg? There you are. One more time. There you go. You and the clerk are combating. Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kimberly Fogg, and I am the founder and CEO of Global Sustainable Partnerships. And I want to thank you all for allowing me to come and testify on behalf of the Black Physicians in Healthcare Network. They have been our partners for many years, and they have contributed to the county's ability to achieve racial equity by addressing the health disparities that exist in our Black communities. They have been meeting the evolving needs of our Black Montgomery County residents, and during COVID, we paved the way to create an integrated, culturally appropriate community-based education outreach efforts due to the problematic history of health inequities within our Black communities. Now the community trusts our community partners. BPHN is a culturally tailored health and wellness approach that focuses on building a trustworthy, inclusive model for total health engagement for the diverse Black communities in Montgomery County. They offer free specialized primary care physicians, specialists, mental health practitioners, in addition to providing community resources including food hubs, rental assistance, financial assistance, veterans assistance, and more. And one of the great things about BPHN is they support organizations like mine, who we are out here doing the community outreach work. And I can just say firsthand that I know that the impact that they've had on this community, and it has just been unbelievable. And we have just been approved, my organization, to be the first teen mental health first aid implementation organization in Montgomery County. And we are looking to partner with our school system so that we can provide some mental health resources and tools for our kids who need it. They are in an emergency. And we also want to make sure that we provide the same mental health first aid services for the adults so that we surround our kids. It's called It Takes a Village, and Black Physicians in the Healthcare Network will be very instrumental in providing those Black mental health professionals for our kids and referrals for our parents. And if the budget is cut, even though there's other providers that could provide those kind of services, representation really does matter. And research always shows us that, when kids are represented, whether they're Latino or whether they're Black or whether they're Caucasian kids, they do better when somebody that's in front of them mirrors who they are and knows their community. So I really am here just to say, please consider giving all the funds to Black physicians. Okay, not all the funds, but do not cut their budget because they really are an amazing force in our community, and I just really support them, and I hope you do too. So thank you very much.
Thank you. You caught our attention there. Okay. Mr. Benswanger.
Council President Glass, council members, members of the community, thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Lee Benswanger. I'm an AP government teacher at Seneca Valley High School. I'm a product of MCPS and a lifelong county resident. I speak to you today as an educator to encourage you to adopt the proposed budget for the future well-being of our students. Educators take a holistic view of our duties at our schools. We care about the well-being of our students. We do the job not for money, but for the satisfaction of making a difference in the lives of our students. We advocate for building improvements and ways to improve learning environments for our students. We view the education of our children as a team effort. It takes a village to raise a child. Teachers are the backbone of that village. Teachers willingly work more than their required hours to ensure our children receive the best education possible. If you drive past a school early in the morning or late in the evening, you will see teachers' cars in the parking lot working beyond their scheduled duty hours to get all of their tasks done. It is very common during the school year for a teacher to take grading home on evenings and weekends to get the work done in a timely manner. Even the extracurricular activity duties teachers take on, such as tutoring, plays, clubs, coaching, barely pay more than minimum wage. Yet we still will do whatever is necessary to ensure our kids get a complete, well-rounded education. Whereas most professional careers employed by the county earn overtime, teachers do not. Let's have some fun. Recently, the 10-year salary challenge was popular on social media. So let's look at the 10-year challenge for teachers. According to the U.S. Labor and Statistics CPI calculator, prices have increased by 30%. $1 in 2012 is worth $1.30 now. Teacher pay in Montgomery County during this time has only increased by 18%. This is not counting any missteps during this time period. In contrast, other positions within MCPS, such as the superintendents, have seen salaries for their positions increase by up to 35%. The county council salary went up by 44%. The county does not even match funds that teachers put into their retirement plans. This sort of sacrifice is not sustainable if Montgomery County wants to retain top talent and regain its spot as the top school district in the nation. For years, the county has used tax breaks to attract businesses to locate here, but bills still need to be paid. You all have the chance to course correct your predecessors who've decided the financial burden will be placed on the shoulders of middle and low income families. With low corporate taxes and a cap on property tax, the county has taken the course of supply side or trickle down economics for years. Our county has therefore ignored 200 years of economic data. As a teacher and an MBA who has studied historical economics, I can tell you that it never trickles down. It is time for you to make the hard decision and approve the revenue enhancement measure. To wait would send a message that the mighty dollar is more important than education, that the 1% are more important than the masses. I ask you, who has the political will to do what is truly necessary for our communities? We are united for our kids, our communities, and our future. Are any of you? Remember, without teachers, there's no...
Thank you, Mr. Benswanger. And finally on this panel, Ms. Stalker.
Dear council members, thank you for the opportunity to testify at this hearing. My name is Kathy Stalker, and I'm one of the MCC PTA cluster coordinators for the BCC cluster. I welcome the opportunity to represent the families of over 7,000 kids currently enrolled in our 10 schools in the Bethesda and Chevy Chase areas. First, I would like to publicly thank the County Executive Council members and staff for your hard work and service to the public in a challenging era when we are all asked to do more with less. Less time, less staff, less money. Those of us who have worked for many years advocating for schools have a bit of a sense of how the sausage is made and some understanding of the difficult trade-offs you must consider. My job, our job as advocates, is to bring to your attention what is happening now at the micro level with our own constituents, but to also encourage you to zoom out and take a look at what lies ahead and where we may find ourselves down the road. There's one example I have time to share. We're all really concerned about the current and rapidly rising population at Bethesda Elementary School, even though we just adjusted boundaries, disrupting a lot of kids and families over 3 different schools. The crowding at Bethesda Elementary continues. Families walk to school in the shadow of cranes and rapidly emerging apartment buildings that seem to sprout from the ground at every turn. We all welcome growth, but this growth means that the schools such as BE are bursting at the seams. More urgently, the new students who are matriculating are more likely to be kids who receive free and reduced meals and/or are multi-language learners who need more support services and more space for specialized instruction. We understood in 2021 when a long-anticipated addition at BE had to be canceled due to budgetary constraints. Instead, we tried a boundary change without much success, I'm afraid. The projected enrollment at BE for this year was 545. Halfway through the year, the actual number is 622 and growing. It is clear that we are going to need a capital project at Bethesda Elementary School. As one of the schools feeling the most impact from the growth in downtown Bethesda, BE should be receiving resources to help accommodate the resulting impact of the growth in the school building. Even though our cluster is not directly impacted this year by the non-recommended cuts, such as the delays at Highland and Damascus and Magruder, we are still obviously really concerned about our fellow clusters, and we know that delays in currently pending projects will necessarily delay future projects we will need in our own cluster. It is for this reason that MCC PTA Executive Committee has issued a letter in support of the passage of MC 1723. I know that the idea of a proposed tax increase is not a palatable one, but neither are disruptive and frequent school boundary changes. And we know that despite the heroic efforts of our teachers and administrators, when schools are too crowded, student well-being and achievement suffers, especially for our students who already need more support. Addressing the funding gap now helps schools that are currently slated for much needed and anticipated capital projects, but also helps us prepare for the much needed capital projects that we all know are coming. Thank you all so much for your time and for your service to our community.
Thank you. Thank you all for your testimony this afternoon. Next, I'd like to call up Louisa Espinoza Mary, Paula Ross, Robin Ficker, Shannon Babe Thomas, and Tim Leiter. And we will begin with Ms. Mary. No. Okay.
Bien. Sí. Buenas tardes a todos los miembros. Mi nombre es Luisa Espinosa, vivo en la comunidad de Germantown y vengo de Venezuela. Mi solicitud es que exista un programa que ayude a los estudiantes indocumentados graduados en la Universidad del Condado a insertarse en el campo laboral.
Good afternoon, Montgomery County Council. My name is Luisa Espinosa. I live in Germantown and I am from Venezuela. I am requesting to create a program to help find jobs for undocumented students who have graduated from local colleges.
Como todo inmigrante, vinimos a este país para tener una mejor vida. Para lograr esto se necesita trabajar. Por supuesto, yo no tenía documentos legales para hacerlo, por lo tanto no logré conseguir trabajo. Durante 1 año y medio aproximadamente tuve que recurrir a ayudas de personas conocidas y de fundaciones. Mi situación fue bastante precaria para ese lapso de tiempo.
I am an immigrant, and like any other immigrant, I came to this country seeking a better life. In order to have a better life, we need to work. When I arrived to the United States, I was undocumented, so I was unable to find a job. For about a year and a half, I had to seek help from friends in different organizations. I was in a very precarious situation.
Afortunadamente se aprobó para los venezolanos el beneficio de estatus de protección temporal, que es el TPS, y pude beneficiarme de ello y obtener los documentos necesarios para poder trabajar. Pero esta situación no le sucede a todos los inmigrantes que llegan aquí. Tristemente hay muchos que pasan años y una vida entera como ilegal. Hasta los jóvenes indocumentados que obtienen títulos universitarios aquí siguen siendo para ellos un gran obstáculo insertarse en el campo laboral.
Fortunately, the government approved the temporary protection status at TPS for Venezuelans, and I was able to obtain the legal documentation to work in the United States. However, not everybody is as lucky as I am. There are many immigrants that remain undocumented for years. Many young people that graduate from college here in the United States have a hard time finding jobs because of their legal status.
Hoy veo con gran preocupación, como muchos padres, que nuestros hijos estudiantes universitarios al culminar sus estudios no logren conseguir trabajo por ser inmigrantes indocumentados. Esto es por ello que hago esta petición por mi hija y por todos esos estudiantes en la misma situación y que en realidad ellos tengan un mejor futuro como cualquier ciudadano crecido en este país.
It concerns me to see how many of our children are able to go to college but cannot find jobs due to their legal status. I am testifying about this issue on behalf of my daughter and all of the students that experience the same circumstances. I want them to have the same future as any citizen of this country.
Y qué bueno sería que este condado logre tener un programa para ayudar a estos estudiantes graduados en las universidades del condado de Montgomery. Este es mi testimonio y mi solicitud. Gracias.
It would be very beneficial if the county has a program to help all of us students that have graduated from county colleges. This is my testimony and my request. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, Ms. Ross.
Hello, Council President Glass, Vice President Friedson, and members of the County Council. I'm Paula Ross, President and CEO of the Gaithersburg-Germantown Chamber of Commerce, and I welcome Stephanie Housing, the new CEO of the Greater Silver Spring Chamber, here with me as well. Together, we represent nearly 775 businesses in the county. We're here in opposition to the property tax increase proposed by County Executive Mark Elrich. The chambers urge you to reject this proposed budget and any property tax rate increase. As a member of the community, a homeowner, and a business leader here, I care deeply about economic development in the county. This property tax rate increase, especially combined with the proposals for recordation tax increase and rent control, will effectively deter investment in our community, increase the cost of doing business here, make it difficult to bring a workforce here, and make it even more impossible for the next generation of business leaders to afford to root themselves in Montgomery County. This proposed tax increase will drive up the cost of living for residents and our business owners and further increase the rising cost of housing, hampering economic growth. The county executive has said this budget was a compromise. However, the tax increase funds 99.8% of the school system budget request while also increasing budgets across many county agencies and departments. We don't recognize a compromise or prioritization here. If we must prioritize schools and public safety, both of which are important to economic development, you must not increase other areas of the budget. We also encourage additional accountability in the school system for the $3 billion budget funded by our taxpayers. The county executive has talked about Montgomery County's low property tax rate versus neighboring jurisdictions, but with our high median home values and rising assessments, raising property tax rates will erode that competitiveness. And let's face it, we know we have a housing shortage. Montgomery County's housing market has slowed and it's unaffordable. The County Council needs to focus on spurring growth and development instead of punishing current residents and scaring away potential residents and new businesses and investors. Please reject the county executive's proposed 10% tax increase. And while you're considering this, please also reject the proposed recordation tax increase and rent control bills.
Thank you for your time and for considering your priorities to make Montgomery County a place where residents and businesses can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ficker, you're on.
Thank you. I think that the council should look to see if they could gain more profits from their pension system. In the first quarter, there were only 8 stocks in the Standard & Poor's 500 that advanced, and they were Meta, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Netflix. Meta is the same as Facebook's. Also, Tesla, NVIDIA, and Microsoft. Take a look at your pension funds. You're paying hundreds of or tens of millions of dollars to people to run those funds, and see how many of those stocks were big participants in your pension funds. The last time I looked, NVIDIA, which was the #1 gainer in the S&P 500 in the first quarter, was barely in your pension fund at all. I think that we need to also look at the CHIPS Act. The CHIPS Act is a $54 billion program for the manufacture of semiconductors. The jobs there pay about $90 an hour. It would be nice to have a plant like that at the ComSat location here in Montgomery County. There are 15 manufacturing plants in the United States in the last couple of years, not one here in Maryland. I got an email just recently from a publication which took the place of the Gaithersburg Gazette. I'm talking about the Glass Gazette, which said that indeed $80 million more is coming to Montgomery County from the state. That should make you happy and give you some extra money to spend. Mr. Ehrlich is a friend of mine. I like the guy, but he thinks he's Santa Claus. He voted for the 9% increase in property taxes in 2016. He should have been term limited. The term limit went from 60% approval to 70% when they passed that tax increase. He avoided term limits by running for county executive, and he's even appointed one of Santa's elves to a higher paying job in the county government now, who also voted for that 10% property tax increase. So the word is out now that if you vote for a tax increase, Mr. Ehrlich is going to take care of you. Santa's going to take care of you. Well, I know that the dollar menu at McDonald's now has virtually nothing on it. I know that gasoline is going to $4 a gallon this month. I also know that my home equity payment has doubled in the last year. We have inflation at 6%. We can't afford a property tax increase. How many of you in your campaign literature mentioned affordable housing? If you want it, then you shouldn't vote to make housing more expensive. How many of you mentioned a property tax increase in your campaign literature? If you didn't, you shouldn't vote for this tax increase.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ficker. Ms. Thomas.
Yes. Good afternoon. I'm Shannon Day Thomas, the Executive Director of Community Bridges. On behalf of Community Bridges, I want to thank the county for the continued support of our organization. For 25 years, CB has been empowering girls from diverse backgrounds to become exceptional students, positive leaders, and healthy young women here in Montgomery County. We support girls in Montgomery County that are currently living in poverty. In fact, 94% of our families this year have an annual income of $45,000 or less. Our unique approach centers around a holistic strategy, empowering young girls to excel academically, gain leadership skills, and have healthy minds and bodies on a 10-year continuum from 3rd through 12th grade and beyond through after school, mentoring, college access and success, and our family program. This year we're providing support for over 450 young women and their families. That's over 2,000 individuals here in the county. Our college access and success program has continued to grow, and I'm sure as you know, the need is getting greater. All of our girls know that college is a real option for them. 100% of our girls this year will be going off to college after graduation. Through our mentoring and programmatic support, we know that girls will break the cycle of poverty for themselves and their families using education as a vehicle. I want to share just one story that kind of exemplifies what we do. One of our girls who's graduating from Springbrook this year, we knew for her to go to college that she had to have extra financial support to do so. We helped her to apply for the Horatio Alger Scholarship. She received it. 2 weeks ago, she was at the Leadership Summit. But just to show you the holistic support, getting a scholarship just wasn't enough. We needed to make sure she had the professional wear that she needed to be there, the shoes, the suitcase, everything. And for us, that support doesn't end. We're going to see her through college and to ensure that she sees that college success. I urge the council to look at the 2024 operating budget and ensure that the nonprofits have the support to continue the critical work here in Montgomery County. I'm requesting that you maintain the recommended 3% increase on nonprofit contracts and add an additional 3.6% for a total of 6.6%. As many of you know, costs are going up. For us, we're seeing insurance has gone up 11% this year. Transportation for field trips is up 20%. Our rent's going up 4%. And I know to keep our staff who are doing this work, we have to give them a competitive salary so that we can keep and maintain our staff. An increase of 6.6% will ensure that we're able to continue offering the services and support that is needed here in Montgomery County. Community Bridges will be able to help empowering young women to become leaders and to come back into the county and help their families. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Leiter.
President Glass, good afternoon to you and all the council members. I'm Tim Leiter, speaking today as the chair of the Montgomery County Library Board. So today I'd like to discuss several budget items in the context of the Montgomery County Public Library Strategic Plan, which I carry everywhere. With the help of the county's innovation team, MCPL developed this 3-year plan with wide input from library professionals, fellow government personnel, and people across our entire community. So as a result, MCPL came up with 4 goals or priorities. 1, getting more of our children ready for kindergarten. 2, helping more of our teens be ready for the workforce and college. 3, helping non-English speakers participate fully in American society. And 4, helping residents with limited access to technology get access to that digital world. MCPL's leadership also said that while maintaining service across the county, it would seek to concentrate its strategic initiatives in areas of the county with high concentrations of lower income people of color who may or may not speak English as a first language. So in issuing this plan last September 20th, County Executive Elrich said, quote, "Our libraries serve each of their communities in so many ways. Right now, certain communities need extra help, and this plan puts MCPL on track to understand the needs of these communities and use its resources to make a major difference in the lives of people of all ages. So to support this statement, the county executive's budget provides support in various ways of the 4 strategic initiatives which the library board values and considers very important. Specifically, the board feels that the reduction in the library's lapse target from 5.5 to 3.3% will be of significant benefit to MCPL in many areas, including the strategic plan. Next, Mr. Elrich's March 15th recommendation called for $100,000 to enhance world language materials for 6 languages, but initially focusing on the Chinese and Spanish collections to help these communities participate in American life. The Library Board fully supports this recommendation, which is directly in line with the library's strategic plan. The Board also appreciates and lauds the $75,000 to be provided by the Early Care and Education NDA in fiscal year 24 to expand MCPL's early literacy programs and outreach for children from ages 0 to 5. Finally, the Library Board is particularly interested in and encouraged by the Trial Hatchlings program as an early literacy effort. We support its continuation and expansion. So as Mr. Elrich pointed out on September 20th, our libraries can make important contributions to many lives across our county. His budget recommendations seek the resources needed to do this, and we on the Library Board ask you to support the requests I've gone over today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leiter. Thank you all for your testimony this afternoon. Next, I'd like to invite up Tom Newton, Cindy Lotto, Eric Salzano, Ryan Washington, and Carrie Guthrie. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Newton? There you go. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Tom Newton. I was born and raised in Montgomery County, and I've been a homeowner here for the past 20+ years. I truly believe this is one of the best places in the world to live and work, to raise a family, and not just because of good jobs, great schools, and inclusive, diverse communities, but because of all the opportunities for adventure that await us right outside our door. I'm referring to our great parks and trails. We owe a debt of gratitude to past and present leaders who have given us wonderful county parks through smart planning and forward-thinking land management. The Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission has preserved thousands of acres of public lands, including lush stream valleys and dense forests. These parks throughout the county provide residents with opportunities to connect with nature, get some exercise and fresh air, and escape the stresses of daily life. Trails make that possible. During the pandemic, the uses of parks and trails skyrocketed, and people have increasingly discovered the wonderful natural experience that parks and trails provide. I'm a coach for a local youth mountain biking team. We have an awesome group of kids and families who enjoy mountain biking together year-round. One of the best parts of being a coach is getting to know these student athletes and their parents. Some of these kids have had a hard time fitting in with other sports or activities, but on the trails, they thrive. They make new friends, they challenge themselves mentally and physically, and you can see them blossom into young adults with character and grit. As coaches, we have the privilege of witnessing them growing up before our very eyes. Which brings me back to the parks and trails. Montgomery Parks has an outstanding trail building team, maintaining over 260 miles of trails in the 420 parks of this county. And they build or reroute miles of new trails every year. The negotiated pay increase for county employees will give the park staff a well-deserved raise, but the proposed parks budget is not enough to fund it. Therefore, if this proposed budget is adopted, some employees would have to be let go. I recognize there are always challenges with budgets, many priorities, and difficult choices. I respectfully request that the full parks budget is funded. Let's give our dedicated park staff the compensation they so richly deserve, and let's keep everyone together on these teams that do such great work for the benefit of all residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newton. Ms. Lotto.
12 years left. 12 years left teaching in Montgomery County Public Schools. I can't afford the financial penalty, so 12 years it is. That 12 years could change a lot. To put it in perspective, 12 years ago, I was sporting the colorful jeans, of course, the feather in the hair. I was reading Hunger Games alongside my students, and I went to the movie theater, yes, the actual theater, to watch Harry Potter. More importantly, 12 years ago, I was teaching in Montgomery County Public School at a time when we spent more per pupil than we do now. Clearly, 12 years is a lot when you look at it that way. But for me, the 12 years moving forward is about survival. Let's put it in my magnified perspective. I teach social studies at Gaithersburg High School. 3 of my social studies colleagues are retiring this year. 3. Another one's out because she just can't do it anymore after year 6. And the 5th one just left 2 months ago, midway through the year. So add that up, that makes 5. Everybody sees 5. That's in one department. Out of 14 departments in one school, out of 25 high schools. Now, I was a math major first, but I don't think that we need to multiply it to figure out that there's going to be a massive vacancy problem. To highlight this crisis more, we've got those 5 vacancies. There are about 7, so 5 plus 2. There are 7 undergraduates graduating this May from UMD qualified to teach secondary social studies. So, of course, now all we need to do is find a way to lure or perhaps dupe these 7 graduates to our school. Mind you, our school, not our county, one individual school. Multiply this across the state and you get a sense of the scope of the problem I'm talking about. There's simply not enough incentives for young people to pursue careers teaching, but the need only gets greater year by year. This magnified example is the norm everywhere. When we pull back, it is undeniable what will happen if this revenue enhancement measure is not passed to meet the needs of the school system. 12 years is scary for me. I look at this current reality and the trending data. I always tell people that teaching is the perfect job for someone who thrives off multitasking, believes in social justice, understands sacrifice for the common good, and believes that education truly can be a ticket to a life of want, not just one of need. These beliefs have held me for 18 years at MCPS at Gaithersburg High School, but 12 more? I, Cindy Lotto, am a Montgomery County resident, voter, taxpayer, parent of 2 MCPS students. I worked over 20 Apple ballot shifts, helping to get some of you elected to the spots you're sitting on. I did it because I thought you understood that 12 more years is a lifetime to our current students and for me, and just 1 year is too late to act when it comes to education.
Thank you, Ms. Lotto. Mr. Salzano.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Salzano. I represent CSAC, a provider in Montgomery County that takes care of people with developmental disabilities. Honorable council members, thank you for the opportunity to make a few remarks before you here today. I'm here to speak on behalf of the citizens in our county with developmental disabilities and the many dedicated workers who support them. There is a critical shortage of caretakers. Without these great people, the individuals we serve cannot fully participate in our society. The providers had requested the rate of inflation last year, nothing more, in the county supplement. But when the budget was released, I was shocked to see only a 2% increase from last year. I am asking the county council to find a way to increase the supplement to 8.7%, which is desperately needed. As I read the county budget line by line, even the parks, and I have nothing against the parks and trails, they're all great, got an increase of 7%. So I guess it's Parks 7, people with developmental disabilities 2. Any increase in funding goes 100% to the direct care support workers. Under the proposed budget, our direct care support workers would only receive 3 cents of an increase per hour. With Montgomery County indexing the minimum wage to inflation, this is just unacceptable. While county attorneys have ruled that most nonprofits in our industry are exempt from the minimum wage increases, however, we are not exempt from the market forces. Those forces demand that we give increases to the direct care workers, and they truly deserve it. Over the Easter holiday, I took my 2 stepchildren to an Easter egg hunt. There were about 100 children there. When the bell rang to start the hunt, the children ran wildly in all directions, collecting eggs. I spotted a child about 7 years old with a developmental disability. He had a smile on his face and eagerly wanted to participate in the hunt. In spite of his desires, he was moving too slow and looking on the ground for eggs in places that the other kids had already picked them up. My heart went out to this child. At the end of the hunt, many kids had 8 to 10 eggs in their basket, while this poor child I was watching, who had tried as hard as he could, had none. My stepson interceded on his behalf and made sure he got a couple of eggs in his basket. Honorable council members, you have always stood with us. You have never let us down. I am asking you to intercede on our behalf and make sure our basket is not empty this year. I have 20 seconds. I'd like to say I'm here for really the civil rights of people with developmental disabilities. Dr. King viewed civil rights as a promissory note issued by the United States of America. Lincoln framed civil rights as a church altar. I have always viewed town, city, and county councils as the most basic fundamental element of our freedom and democracy. We are here today to redeem a promissory note upon the altar of freedom. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Salzano. And thank you for everybody from CSAC who's joining us today. I appreciate you all being here. Next, Mr. Washington.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Council President, members of the Council. For the record, my name is Ryan Washington. I represent the Apartment and Office Building Association, Metropolitan Washington. Our AOBO members...
Mr. Washington, if you just hold on 1 second.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I think we're good.
As you are, Mr. Washington.
Thank you, thank you. AOBA understands the need and the county's priority to focus on education and improving the overall MCPS system by increasing funding. However, we oppose the county executive's 10% tax increase, which will further exacerbate the housing crisis in the county, as well as make it more difficult and challenging for our members to operate in the county. These economic conditions add to numerous fiscal pressures AOBA members have faced in recent years. Just to name a few, this includes a 6.5% increase with the WSSC rate increase for the fiscal year 2023, a $52 million revenue increase, and a corresponding rate increase until March 2024 for PEPCO. This is not only along with new county and state legislative mandates, which include building energy performance standards that will require large-scale retrofits and expensive capital improvements. It's also important to remind members of this council of the two proposals that are before this body to limit rent increases. Rent is the single source of revenue that housing providers use to continue to support the operations and maintenance of the property. 91% of the rent goes to overall upkeep, insurance, utilities, mortgage, and property taxes as they currently pay. These costs can only be managed through increases in rent, services, reductions to the residents. With this tax increase, it will be a cost that's passed on to renters and further making an issue for renters to afford living where they are currently staying. AOBA will also like to highlight that it appreciates and applauds the county executive and supports the need for a more robust and rental assistance program targeted to tenants that are in dire need of relief. During the pandemic, the rental relief program helped many families and provide resources for families to stay housed and help with high delinquencies for many of our members facing with tenants not paying rent. Recouping some of those costs is essential to maintain operations on property, preserving current affordable housing stock. We'd like to continue to work with the council to provide those type of solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. Ms. Guthrie.
Good afternoon, County Council President Glass, Council Vice President Friedson, and esteemed council members. I am Carrie Guthrie. I'm the President and CEO of Cornerstone Montgomery, one of the largest behavioral health providers in this county. As you consider the county executive's proposed FY24 budget, I want to bring in items to your attention, and you've heard me say this one before. Well, some of you have, not all of you. Now you get to start hearing it. It will have a profoundly negative impact on our bottom line and the people that we serve. It's the annual proposed reduction in the residential rehabilitation services contract. This year's proposed cut is $110,549. We operate more than 220 residential beds in this county, so this cut hits us the hardest. It may not seem like that much money when you look at the full picture, but this support is critical to our budget, and any cuts would further tax us when we are at a financial crisis. In March, we had to lay off 12 people and freeze 11 positions. We have never had to do that in 51 years of being in business. We lost close to 20% of our clients during the pandemic, not to COVID, but because they left our services, and we are continuing to come out of COVID. It's been very challenging. It's been more challenging coming out of COVID than being in the height of it, I will say. All of the dollars make a difference now. In the past, our clinic struggled to break even, but this year with COVID, our residential services have been struggled because we haven't been able to fill beds. Our supported employment program has lost clients and is struggling, and our residential crisis houses are also losing money. We need every dollar. Across the United States, people are not returning to pre-COVID health services like they used to. Hospitals are opening their own clinics, and primary care providers are providing more behavioral health services. While this is great for the community in terms of access, it gives us more competition and more challenges to split all those dollars between us. We continue to partner with our other nonprofit organizations wherever we can, but we cannot operate without your support and assistance. These critical funds help us not only to provide safe and stable housing for our clients, but also have been critical in offsetting the losses in the other programs that I've already mentioned. Without this subsidy in its full number that we're hoping for, we won't be able to provide the continuing array of services, and I'm worried that we will need to make more cuts. We ask you to reject any cuts to this funding so that we can continue to provide these vital services to some of the most vulnerable in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for your testimony this afternoon. And the final in-person testimony this afternoon is Robert Landau.
Thank you very much, Council President and members of the Council. I'm Robert Landau. I'm a Gaithersburg resident, and I'm speaking in support today of the Silver Spring Justice Coalition's operating budget priorities. Hundreds of SSJC members and organizations seek to eliminate harm caused by police and empower those communities most affected by policing. Our coalition urges you to, 1, oppose MCPD's expansion of their Community Resources Bureau, which unnecessarily expands police presence and wastes taxpayer dollars for police to market themselves with significantly more community events, namely 3 times as many as before. 2, we hope you'll oppose the perpetuation of the CEO program. MCPS data shows that police are rarely needed to resolve student problems. There is, however, ample evidence that CEOs perpetuate the schools to prison pipeline. On balance, the CEO program does more harm than good, and you can comply with state law without CEOs. 3, we urge you to invest more of the budget in robust restorative justice programs for MCPS by having dedicated RJ staff rather than only stipended positions in the schools. A recent MCPS presentation demonstrated that the rollout of the RJ programs have been slow and unsteady. Funding for dedicated RJ staff will solve these problems quickly and effectively. 4, we hope you'll oppose funding for MCPD budget items that perpetuate the warrior culture in MCPD, such as 6 firearms specialists, high-powered rifles, drones, and other weapons. A commitment to a guardian culture should start with demilitarizing the police. Budgeting more money for guns and gun training tacitly encourages police to use guns more, not less. And lastly, we hope that you will expand the budget for mobile crisis outreach teams to enable trained mental health teams to respond to the 138 mental and behavioral health situations needing intervention that occur every day in this county. And lastly, add more funding to HHS to offer competitive pay needed to fill those long-term vacant positions, expand their services, and purchase specialized vehicles. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Landau. We now have 8 individuals who will be joining us virtually for this hearing. First is Casey Dyson.
Good afternoon, council members and guests. I'm Casey Dyson, Government Relations and Public Funding Director at Food and Friends. I'd like to thank you for your continued support of our mission to improve the lives and health of residents living with serious illnesses such as cancer, kidney failure, and HIV/AIDS that limit their ability to shop or cook for themselves. Your fiscal support, as well as the time that many of you have spent volunteering with us, shows your commitment to the physical and mental health of your neighbors. For the past 35 years, Food and Friends has been providing freshly prepared, home-delivered, medically tailored meals, groceries, and medical nutrition therapy to residents. Our clients are referred to us from their healthcare providers, and there is no charge for services to them. Families can also receive meals free of charge. Last year, we delivered over 1.59 million meals and 1,600 nutrition encounters to nearly 4,900 people across the DMV. Of those, over 150,000 meals went to 443 Montgomery County residents. Because we are the only community-based organization in our region doing this work, last year we saw a 29% increase in referrals, with the largest spikes in clients experiencing heart diseases and diabetes. We hear from our referral partners that patients have been returning to care with pandemic-delayed diagnoses of severe illnesses. That means that more people are finding themselves in need of Food and Friends at a time when food and housing costs are already high and they are too sick to be able to take advantage of other nutrition support programs. Food and Friends is committed to maintaining a diverse revenue stream from public and private sources, and support from the Montgomery County Council is key. For each dollar we receive from Montgomery County, we must raise almost $13 from other sources. Now, in addition to being good stewards of your money, we also reduce the cost of health care. A recent Tufts study estimates that if all U.S. eligible patients living with complex health conditions received access to meals with nutrition standards such as ours, in just the first year, over 1.5 million hospitalizations could be avoided for a net cost savings of $13.6 billion. Our service makes a difference. We support the work of Montgomery County Food Council, the Office of the Food System Resilience, and nonprofit Montgomery. We ask for your continued support in the operating budget for our Senior Nutrition Program contract and budgeted CDBG public service grant, and look forward to expanded efforts to meet the needs of the nutritionally vulnerable in Montgomery County. Thank you for your time and your service.
Thank you very much. Next, I'd like to bring up Eliza Cava.
Right. Hello, good afternoon, Council President Glass, Vice President Friedson, and members of the County Council. My name is Eliza Cava, and I am the Conservation Director of Nature Forward. I'm testifying today in my role as the co-chair of the Stormwater Partners Network of Montgomery County. Our network is composed of 33 watershed, civic, and environmental organizations based or operating in the county, as well as many individuals. This year's budget for the environment is the strongest I have seen in my 7 years testifying, although the good news for watershed restoration, stormwater management, and climate change is offset by an unexplained reduction to the Parks Department's budget request. Tax and recordation rates are obviously important for Council to consider. However, I want to point out that only 5.5% of the entire operating budget goes to the incredibly important priorities of the environment and parks, assets and functions that affect every single resident. The percentages are about the same for the CIP budget. With these small amounts, agencies and departments including DEP, MCDOT, parks, and many more protect our waterways, steward our natural resources and recreational spaces, respond to the threat of climate change, beautify and cool our communities, provide resources for environmental justice and education, manage recycling and composting programs, plan for electric vehicle adoption, and so much more. Stormwater Partners Network overall is very supportive of the DEP watershed restoration budget. In particular, we are pleased to see sorely needed new positions and funding that will help track down pollution and monitor our streams, expand the Rainscapes program, manage invasive species, reduce excessive road salt use, implement the organic lawn care law, and enhance tree and forest conservation. In the CIP budget, there are funds to continue to implement a very important flood study. As the Post wrote several years ago, in our region, hellish heat and high water are the impacts we are already feeling and which will only intensify due to climate change. We need to be prepared to address the massive challenge of flooding around aging infrastructure and avoid any more tragedies like the death at Rock Creek Woods Apartments in 2021. Finally, Council should fill the $4.3 million budget gap in Parks request. Parks, Trails, and Recreation was ranked third behind only crime and public schools on a survey of level of importance to residents. Out of the 37,000 acres of land that Montgomery Parks manages, 75% are classified as natural areas. For these extensive acres of forests and streams, the Natural Resource Stewardship Section's Vegetation Ecology and Management Unit staffing levels are now the same as they were 35 years ago. This low level of staffing is despite all that we have learned about invasive species management, habitat fragmentation, and forest ecology, and as development and climate pressures have only increased stresses upon our natural resources. This year, Parks requested $167,000 to support 3 FTEs for natural resource stewardship. If Council doesn't fill Parks' $4.3 million budget gap, these positions will again go unfilled, keeping our ability to manage our essential natural resources at a 1990-like level. Thank you very much, and I will share more details in our network's written testimony later this week.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Next is Nithya Raghavan. We cannot hear you. We see beautiful Brookside Gardens, but we cannot hear you.
Good afternoon. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we hear you now.
My name is Nithya Raghavan, and I am testifying in support of the Montgomery County Parks, CIP, and FY24 operating budget. I'm a board member of the Friends of Brookside Gardens, a volunteer gardener at the Brookside Conservatory, and a past participant in the Wheaton Regional Master Plan Work Group. I'm also a very grateful resident of Silver Spring and an advocate of our own phenomenal Montgomery County park systems and the beautiful Brookside Gardens. The pandemic, horrific gun violence, politics, war, women's rights, floods, and tornadoes have all exacted a toll on our physical and mental health. Media, in all forms, bombards us every minute with updates about this doom and gloom situation. Humanity is being besieged with negativity, and mental health issues seem to be rampant. How can we shake off this sense of hopelessness and develop a more positive outlook on life? Nature helps us to do this. We in Montgomery County are very lucky to have our extensive park system, all 421 of them, including Brookside Gardens. These parks offer us therapy, mental health support, and a low-budget, safe travel destination. However, it comes at a cost, namely manpower, maintenance, and money. There has been an 80% increase in visits to the parks this year, and Brookside Gardens has clocked over 1 million visitors in 2022. So what we desperately need is infrastructure support, significant budget increases, and not cuts. In the current budget, our parks have been shortchanged with a mere 4.2% budget increase compared to other services, and is a whopping 4.3 million less than the park's request. Our parks have saved our sanity and kept us healthy. I therefore request you to fully fund the park's operating budget for FY 2024. I would like to conclude with a quote from Lady Bird Johnson, who said, "Where flowers bloom, so does hope. We need hope. So please give more to our parks, and in return, our awards from the park will be bountiful." Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Raghavan. Next is Laura Mitchell, and I'm not sure if Ms. Mitchell is online, and she's not. Next is Dr. Jeffrey Johnson.
Good afternoon, County Council members. My name is Dr. Jeffrey Johnson. I'm the chair of the Montgomery County Community Action Board. Thank you for the opportunity to share our priorities. We thank the Council for your leadership during the Tacoma East Silver Spring Test Community Action Center's move to its new location last summer. We also appreciate the County Executive adding the navigation program to the agency with 4 new positions. We are again requesting staffing enhancement for the agency. We request that the Council add 2 Merit Community Services Aid 3 positions to TESS, converting 2 long-term brokers positions. The opportunity coach at TESS is also a broker position and has been funded by our Community Services Block Grant and through a state grant, which is being discontinued. After the Kresge grant ended, the county added a merit position in East County. We request the same, that a merit position be added for an opportunity coach at TESS. We are excited about the Community Action Agency's new navigation unit to better address the needs at other sites, though, and to assure continuity when navigators are called to address mass care emergencies. We are requesting 2 additional Community Services Aid 3 positions in fiscal year 24. During this budget season, you will hear from participants in our board's advocacy training program for lower income residents, the Community Advocacy Institute. 21 participants will graduate next month, including 8 Spanish-speaking participants. To support the bilingual program, we are requesting $36,000 for a part-time, part-year bilingual contract. The Community Action Agency's volunteer tax assistance program is wrapping up a very successful tax season, providing free tax help to lower income residents. The VITA program lost approximately $20,000 in United Way grant funding this year, which had supported our tax credits texting campaign. We request funding to stabilize this outreach and consider prioritizing VITA programs for our partners. We thank the Council for funding the county's Working Families Income Supplement at a 7% match of the EITC, for including the ITIN flyers. We hope that in the future, funding will allow for 100% match of the EITC again, state match again. Finally, the new Maryland self-sufficiency standard calculator is now online. A family of 4 in Montgomery County with 2 working adults, 1 preschooler, 1 school-aged child needs $122,943 to meet the standard, 4 times the federal poverty level. We look forward to finalizing the Montgomery County report in the coming months. Thank you very much for allowing us to present our request.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Next is Herb Simmons.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I live in Silver Spring. My name is Herb Simmons, and I'm basically asking that you ensure that sufficient resources are in this year's budget to enable the county to meet your unanimously declared 2017 goal to decarbonize 80% of county emissions in 5 more short years by 2027. I testify as one of those who worked to get the council in that same resolution to declare literally the first climate emergency of any large government on the whole planet. I am alarmed, however, at the county's grossly inadequate in anything but emergency climate action. The 3 major pieces of mitigation legislation passed, the BEPS bill, the Green Bank energy tax, and the building electrification, were carefully designed to ensure that they would only have a minimal impact on emissions before the 2027 goal. The climate assessment bill that I first proposed 4 years ago to council and agreed to then by most council members was only adopted 3 long years later. Council even refused to include mention of the 2027 goal in the Thrive 2050 plan, only the 2035 goal. Blatant censorship I've never seen before, and that would make George Orwell smile. The consensus amongst climate scientists is that what the world does in the next 3 to 4 years, literally, to reduce emissions will determine the future of life on Earth for the next 10,000 years. Let me repeat that. What is done by you and others in the next 3 or 4 years will determine the future of life on Earth for the next 10,000 years. Yet I have written to each of you several months ago, at least twice, asking that you undertake a comprehensive review of progress being made as it is 5 years into the 10-year period to reach the 27 goal, and 8 of you literally have never even responded to my request. You declared in your emergency resolution that you have a moral responsibility to act on climate. If you're not willing to meet that responsibility to adequately fund and legislate what's necessary to meet the goal, then you must be honest with the public and choose to modify or even eliminate the 80% goal. I hope you will make up for the past climate inaction and make the right decisions in this year's budget and in your legislative actions. I will be happy to work with you in any way I can, and I thank you very much for the opportunity to present this important message to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simmons. This might be the first public testimony coming from an electric vehicle, so thank you for that.
And it's coming from Bullis Park, but unfortunately there's no bench, so I have to sit in my car.
Duly noted. Thank you for the plug in the parks, too. Next is Stephanie Rosen.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to present my testimony virtually. As you can see, my eye is a little interesting right now, so I'm glad that I'm able to virtually connect with you all. Good afternoon, President Glass, Vice President Friedson, and members of the Montgomery County Council. I'm Stephanie Rosen, the Executive Director of the National Alliance on Mental Illness of Montgomery County, Maryland, otherwise known as NAMI-MC. NAMI is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for millions of Americans affected by mental illness. And a key service and a key thing that we bring is that we build communities of peers to provide support, education, and advocacy for all affected by mental illness. I'm here today to advocate on behalf of the 1 in 5 or over 200,000 residents who live in Montgomery County with a mental illness, as well as their caregivers and loved ones. In terms of the county budget, I'm advocating for 2 specific requests. Both support the county's vision to be more inclusive and equitable and supporting families and youth so that they thrive and succeed in their life and ambitions. The first is for the county to include voices like NAMI MCs in your planning process related to behavioral health services. We have a unique lens in the spirit of being person-centered, those of us who are most impacted and use the county's mental health services should have an upfront decision-making voice in these discussions. Further, your data should include feedback from users on your programs, and that data should be publicly available to the community. The second relates to the depth of behavioral health workforce shortage. This issue cannot be overstated, with shortages leading to longer wait times for services, and over-reliance on non-mental health professionals as first responders, and providers opting out of any payer system, accepting cash-only payment for services. It should be noted that none of these byproducts would be acceptable for physical health needs, such as open heart surgery. Of course, this issue is bigger than Montgomery County, but there's a need for the budget to reflect competitive compensations so that county mental health professionals will remain in the system rather than going to private practice and or no longer taking insurance payments. Specifically, we know of many staff vacancies, including at the Crisis Center, the mobile crisis units, and the Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health Services, which serves as the safety net for families with the most need. Let me remind you what is at stake. Untreated mental health conditions can lead to caregiver and family stress, homelessness, suicide, and shortened lifespans. Lastly, I want to encourage you all to contact NAMI Montgomery County if you have any constituents who need help with ours. We have free programs and a network of volunteers who understand what they're going through. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rosen, and I hope you feel better.
Thanks.
Okay, and our final speaker for this afternoon's public hearing is Nala Worthman.
Good afternoon, and thank you for providing me the opportunity to speak this afternoon. My name is Najla Wortham, and I am the president of the Rock Creek Foundation. Since 1973, the Rock Creek Foundation has provided developmental disability support services as well as behavioral health support services to some of the county's most vulnerable residents. Residential rehabilitation services promotes an individual's ability to engage and participate in appropriate community activities of their choice in a supportive environment while enabling the individual to develop the daily living skills needed for independent functioning. The county executive's FY24 recommended budget includes a reduction to the residential rehabilitation program for adults with mental illness supplement by over $110,000. It is essential that we prioritize the behavioral health needs of the most vulnerable citizens of Montgomery County. It is imperative that the council understands that as mental health providers pivot from the pandemic, we are now responding to a heightened psychological ripple. The individuals we support in residential rehabilitation services are experiencing increased mental health problems, substance use and abuse disorders, and an impact to their overall mental well-being. The RRP supplement over the years has mitigated the high cost of doing business in Montgomery County and supplemented the wages of direct support professionals and has allowed Rock Creek to enhance the quality and range of services provided. We are begging the County Council to reconsider the reduction to the RRP program for adults with mental illness funding. However, more importantly, we are pleading that the Council not reduce the funding due to the increased support our individuals need and the wage demands we are experiencing in our workforce, which is directly related to the Montgomery County minimum wage. Please restore the RRP supplement in full. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as I noted a few hours ago, that we have more than 150 people in total. And so we will be hearing from more individuals this evening, starting at 7 o'clock, and then again on Thursday afternoon and Thursday evening. So thank you to everybody who joined us in person and virtually today, and this public hearing is now closed. Now, colleagues, I need a motion to go into closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of an appointee, employee, or official over whom it has jurisdiction pursuant to Maryland Code General Provisions, Article 3-305B1I. The topic is a personnel matter concerning one or more specific appointees, employees, or officials.
So move.
It is moved by Councilmember Albornoz, seconded by Councilmember Fani Gonzalez. All those in favor? And that is unanimous, and thank you very much.